A Tale of Two Cities, how there are two different Columbuses, one for the elite and one for the not so elite. A Columbus for Black Columbus and a Columbus for White Columbus. A Columbus if you're pro cop, and a Columbus if you're against cop. This is a tale of two communities and two cities in which we are going to be speaking about tonight. Last night, the BREAD organization, BREAD stands for Building Responsibility, Equality, and Dignity. And the BREAD organization held their annual yearly call to action rally called the Nehemiah Project. But before we get into covering that and talking about A Tale of Two Communities and how this all intertwines, let me first tell you what the BREAD organization is about. So the BREAD organization is comprised of many different congregations throughout the city of Columbus, who in turn represent many different traditions. Each of the congregations within the organization believes something different about the nature of God and the name of God. But each of the congregations shares a commitment to pursue justice, guided by faith, to finding in the things that they share, the strength that unity can bring together. As they begin each and every single one of their gatherings in prayer, they invite each and every single member of BREAD to offer words of prayer from a stream of their own faith tradition, recognizing that this may be different from your own traditions. They vow to respect each other and for the things they share and for the ways that we are all different. That's who and what the BREAD organization is. So the way the BREAD organization, and once again, if you just didn't hear me a moment ago, BREAD stands for Building Responsibility, Equality, and Dignity. So the way the BREAD organization fights to bring justice through their faith is through this 4-step process. And that's how they win the issues that they tackle each and every single year, justice for those issues. So number one, they listen to their members in one-on-one meetings and house meetings in order to surface the community problems so they can research and begin to figure out what type of action they would like to take on that issue, that community problem. The second thing they do is they research the problems to identify workable solutions. The third thing they do is they then gather in large numbers of people in order to show a supportive power and to attract attention of the decision makers who can implement the solutions that they are requesting. And that's where we find ourselves at tonight. The Nehemiah Project, which is held each and every single year, which is a large gathering of the BREAD organization and all of their congregation and members. This year, the Nehemiah Project and Nehemiah Action was a little bit different. There were a little over almost 300 cars in person at the First Church of God City of Refuge on Refugee Road, where Bishop Timothy Clark is the presiding bishop there. And then there were another 1,000 people who tuned in on YouTube. And then there were another 1,000 people who got in, who called in via Zoom. Now, I've gone to these actions over the past few years, and normally these actions are held at the fairgrounds, at the Celeste Center. But with COVID, they had to go virtual, hybrid in a sense, and that's what they did. And they held the city leaders accountable. And one of the things they spoke about is, and they speak about a lot at the Nehemiah Action, is criminal justice reform and why we need it. And that's where our conversation and the story begins and is derived from tonight. A Tale of Two Cities. Watch this clip right here. And when we come back, we are going to talk in detail how Columbus really is a city for the have and the have nots, and what we need to do to change that. And we're also going to talk about where do we go from here. But first, here is the Nehemiah Actions Police Reform Statement about the problem and why policing here in this city and this community needs reformed, by Pastor James Wynn, who is the co-president of the BRAD organization.
The Police Reform Committee research has found that Columbus is a tale of two cities: abundance and comfort next to scarcity and anxiety. Nowhere is the tale of two cities more apparent than in the area of policing. Policing is vastly different in Black neighborhoods than in white neighborhoods. A national study found that in mostly white neighborhoods, the police act as responsive service providers, helpful to callers, and working with residents to solve local problems. But in Black neighborhoods, the police focus on intervening, often with aggressive tactics like investigative stops, leading to arrest or violent outcomes. Statistics tell us that these disparities in policing have deadly consequences. Franklin County has the highest rates of fatal shootings by law enforcement in Ohio and among the highest in the nation. Excuse me one second here. More than 2/3 of the people killed by Columbus police were Black, whereas Black people comprise less than 1/3 of the population. Many white people also suffer at the hands of police, so transforming the police department will help us all. We need police to take steps to earn trust back with the community they have wronged for so many years. Some people, for good reason, have never trusted the police department. For others, the breaking of trust is more recent. A continuum of practices brought us to this point. Trust was broken back in the day when police enforced racial segregation. Honk if you agree with me. Trust is broken every time a Black motorist is pulled over for suspicion. Honk if you agree. Trust was broken when plainclothes officers called jump out boys killed Henry Green. Trust was broken when police pepper sprayed protesters in the streets, including our own officials here in Columbus. Trust was broken when a Franklin County deputy gunned down Casey Goodson Jr. Trust was broken when Andre Hill was shot and killed by a Columbus police officer. And trust was broken when the Department of Safety went back on their commitment to be here tonight to acknowledge the harm that has been done. At this time, I would like to invite two members of our community
All righty. So apparently, thank you for that, Isabella. You all couldn't hear me. So as you just heard, Columbus is the perfect example of the tale of two cities for the have and the have-nots. What I mean by that is in the Columbus that me and you live in, which is the real Columbus, we live in a Columbus where there's poverty. We live in a Columbus where our property value has been driven up, so our property taxes go up on our properties to where we can't afford them, to where then once we can't afford the property tax, then we're forced out of our homes because we can't afford to pay property taxes and a monthly mortgage anymore. We are from the Columbus where an issue is put on a ballot and marketed to us that it will help out our electric bills, but in turn, it does nothing but rise the rate of what we are charged for an electric bill. And if we don't opt out of it, we are automatically stuck in that program. We reside and we are from the Columbus that there are real issues when it comes to policing. We are from the Columbus and we reside in the Columbus that when we call 911 and say somebody's outside our house or that something's going on and we need the cops, that they don't come. Or they come 2 to 3 hours later. We're from that Columbus. We're from the Columbus that where if we're black, we're 5 times more likely to get shot and killed for being black by the police. We're from the Columbus. We're from that Columbus. But what Columbus, me and you are not from is the Upper Arlington Columbus, the Bexley Columbus, the Dublin Columbus, the Grandview Columbus, that where if we pick up the phone and call the cops, they're there. Where we don't have to worry about loud music being played at 2 o'clock in the morning and us calling the cops and they don't show because they didn't feel like showing. We aren't from that Columbus. As we heard so eloquently in that clip from the co-president of Brad, is that Franklin County has the highest rate of fatal police officer involved shootings, not only in the state, but also one of the highest in the country, second only to Minneapolis, Minnesota. We live in a Columbus where more than 2/3 of the people who have been killed by police make up only 1/3 of the population. We come from a Columbus where nearly 2/3 of the population who have been killed by the police look like me and you. We're black. I'm glad in that clip that the co-president, Brother James, called out the director and the Department of Public Safety. I'm glad that he called out Ned Pettis for what he was and what he is. Because Ned Pettis, while he may look like me and you, he's not for us. And for those of you who don't know, Ned Pettis is the Director of Public Safety. Ned Pettis may say he's for reforming the police department, but what has he done lately to bring about reform? Ned Pettis may say that he wants to work with the community to bring about change, but his department backed out at the last possible moment, at the 11th hour and refused to come to this community action, but yet he wants to work with the community to bring about change. He didn't even send a representative from the public safety department. But had we all been from Bexley or Grandview or Upper Arlington or another part of Columbus, or had we even been on the campus of The Ohio State University, the Department of Public Safety would have sent a representative if Ned Pettis couldn't have made it. Ned Pettis would have made sure one of his deputies was there. But that's yet once again how and why they don't care about us, and how we are a tale of two cities here. We see on the news on channel 10, 4, 6, and in the dispatch how they paint this pretty picture to all of America about how all of these good things are going on. I don't know how often you all watch the morning news. I don't. It's like everywhere blue moon that I turn on the morning news. But they paint this gloomy, bright-eyed picture of how beautiful and how perfect Columbus is, how hopeful, how opulent the city is, how the city's growing in population, how our housing market is on the rise, how we have the best football team in the nation, how we have this, how we have that, how the short north is one of the most decadent and beautiful areas and best areas to run a small business in. But yet they don't want to paint the real picture about what's going on just right down the road and what good things are taking place in the community, in the hoods of Linden, Southfield, and all these others. They don't want to paint the picture to the rest of America and don't really want to face the problem of what really is going on in Columbus. They've painted this fairy tale of a picture. And we need to stop allowing them to do it, because we are facing real issues here in the city. I bet some of you don't know that houses in the Southfield community are going for $250,000 right now. I bet most of you don't know houses in the Brittenell Holt area are going for $150,000. Houses in the East Linden area are going for $150,000. And with the values of property going up, yes, that is a good thing. But with the values of property going up, everybody, what I need you to understand is that when your property value goes up, the amount you pay in property taxes goes up as well. I'm going to let that sink in for you. I'm going to let that sink in for you. I'm going to let it sink in. We're talking about a tale of two cities right now. Simply what we are talking about how there are literally two different Columbuses. There's the Columbus that Andy Ginther, the mayor, paints, which is America's opportunity city, America's smart city. We are the nation's 15th largest city. Nothing goes on in Columbus. Everything's all good, peachy keeney in Columbus. We are revitalizing the communities. We are building this new rec center, and we've been able to build this new stadium for the community to come together and to support local baseball. And we did it through a private-public partnership. That's the picture of what the mayor, Andy Ginther, is painting on TV to the nation and to everybody. This fake, imaginative fairy tale picture and story about what's going on and what Columbus really looks like. But that's not what's happening in Columbus. If we really want to get down to brass tacks about what's going on in the real Columbus, what's going on in the real Columbus is that we're waiting for hours and hours for police officers to respond to a non-emergency call. And even for some emergency calls, we have to call repeatedly 911 in hopes of a cruiser coming out. Because if bullets aren't flying, they aren't coming out. Now, in the same token, and in the same notion, our police department is losing officers to retirement right and left because officers that have been on the job 20 and 30 years figure they've put in their time, they're ready to go because things are changing. And they know the community is ready and going to get reform when it comes to CPD changing at all costs. We are not going to accept the same old any longer. We aren't going to accept this tale of two communities any longer. We aren't. We aren't, because we demand to be that tale, that city of that beautiful picture of roses and daffodils and greenery and of hope and opulence of a beautiful tomorrow that Andy Ginther and everybody paints on TV and that you hear about on the morning news. That's why we aren't going to settle for what's going on any longer. We are going to fight until we can't fight anymore. Because we demand change, we deserve change, and we need change, and we want change. That's why on yesterday, I explained and we went through and we called out the Franklin County Democratic Party. And we called out Franklin County Commissioners Kevin Boyce and John O'Grady. And we told them what they can do to bring about change and transparency. If you didn't see that, go back and watch yesterday's show. It's up on all of our platforms right now. And today, what we are calling for and what we are talking about is the tale of two cities. Now, we are about to take a really quick commercial break. When we come back from this commercial break, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of where do we go from here. And I am going to give us all actionable steps for how we become that city that they paint on TV. How the real Columbus can obtain that. But it's not going to be without putting in some work, without putting in some elbow grease, without putting in some sweat equity. But I know we can do it because we want it. We want to be that city that they paint on TV and that they talk about, America's opportunity city. We want to be that city because we deserve to be that city, and we are that city, and we can be that city. But the only way that can happen is if some real reforms and real change is brought about. When we come back, we are going to be talking about how we can fight the power to get from where we are now to what we are destined to be.
Welcome to Cardwell Mobile Notary Service. I'm Leandra Cardwell. I run a full-service mobile notary company. We specialize in apostille, loan closings, structured settlements, and more. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Even in your home, I'll be there. At the hospital, I'll be there. Nursing homes, I'll be there. At the library, I'll be there. Coffee shops, you pick, and I'll be there. And yes, even remotely too, I'll be there. To submit a request on our website, don't forget to locate us on Facebook and give us a call at 614-999-0149, and I'll be there.
The recent rash of police officer-involved shootings in America, all the way from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, with Dante Wright, to here in Central Ohio at Mount Carmel St. Anne's Hospital, and yesterday where they had a shootout in the ER, which left the victim and suspect dead. Protesters and activists and citizens alike took to the streets tonight, but prior to them taking to the streets, they held a prayer vigil and a balloon release in the historic King Lincoln District at Mamie Moore Park. Let me take you back to the scene earlier today at Mamie Moore Park. While participants released balloons and held a candlelight vigil in honor of those who have lost their lives to police, there was a flyer circulated about Franklin County Sheriff's Deputy Jason Meade still not being arrested, even after the coroner's report was released on March 17th, concluding that Casey Goodson Jr.'s death was a homicide.
For Jason Meade to shoot somebody 5 times in the back with a high-powered rifle, not scared at all. You got to be calm to shoot somebody 5 times with precision in their back.
The visual, activist Ramon Black called out the local elected leaders who aren't doing anything to benefit the people. He implored the audience to learn the names of people who were beside them.
Because you didn't have to come. You shouldn't have had to come. But these situations keep arising, and let's be honest, with the current politicians that are in office, they're probably still going to happen. That's Republicans and Democrats, if I'm being real. I tell black people all the time, you don't have the right to a party of affiliation. That party ain't going to fight for you. You got to make every vote count, whether it's Republican or Democrat, because you don't know who you're going to get. They told us we got a gay, black male named Shannon Harden, who is president of city council. He's the perfect person for all of us. He's supposed to be as diverse as they come. And still, he won't come out and say anything about Andre Hill and Casey Goodson, not until he gets word from Betty Joyce. And look what the community had to do to get word from Betty Joyce. How you run the black caucus and we still can't get you out here. We still can't get actual emotion out here.
After the balloon release, people traveled down to Columbus Police Headquarters in downtown Columbus. Still, at a loss for words, people who took the mic at HQ could only say they're sick and tired of having to gather and protest like this. Then, to voice their opinions and to make sure their voices were heard, they took to the streets. And it was a familiar scene in downtown Columbus, as you just saw, us being in the streets, protesting and voicing our opinions. It will continue to happen, the taking to the streets and the chanting by protesters because they are sick and tired of being sick and tired. In Columbus, for the Unbossed Network, I'm Devontae Goins. And as always, Black America, remember to keep it real because your conscience depends on it. Peace. I'm out.
Sometimes your life won't turn out how you planned it. It turns out how you work for it. How you wake up and you chase that dream every single morning. It's what you give your time and your energy to that takes you to the next level. And that's royalty. You see, many of us believe that just because our father was a drug dealer and our uncle was a drug dealer, that is our life and that is our forever. But I want you to know something. That is only a lesson to show us to be something more. It's a mentality. Roses can grow in the projects if you take care of the soil. It don't matter how big the house is, baby. It's the love inside of it. Take care of your community.
begin with this on tonight. Let me be real clear on what I am about to say right now. Columbus City Council members, Mayor Andy Ginther, there is a bullseye on your back. I am being real clear, so I need y'all to hear me right now. Listen to me. You are going to be targeted because what I will not do is not allow you to continue utilizing Black Columbus as political sharecroppers. Let me be real clear on what I mean. I have never self-identified as a Republican or a Democrat, and I never will. I vote for who I want to vote for or based upon the issues. What you're not getting ready to do is to continue to ask Black Columbus to till the soil and work the land, thus not allowing us to reap the economic benefits. The reality is this: we can go throughout the city when it comes to the folks who are voting. We're talking about Black men, and we are also talking about Black woman. And when y'all get y'all's asses into trouble, you want to run to Black Columbus to help you. You see, I believe in return on investment. I believe when you invest in something, you get something back. Now, has Black Columbus gotten things before? Yes, but let me use the Malcolm X phrase. I am not satisfied. Let me repeat that again. I am not satisfied. You see, I am not satisfied that Columbus City Council is currently 62% Black, but 35 out of the last 39 Columbus City Council members have been appointed. The only person who is currently sitting on council right now that has not been appointed to the seat, a city council seat, is Elizabeth Brown. You see, the whole appointment shit has got to go because it is unfair, it's untrustworthy, and only serves the elite of the elite who fall in line with the Franklin County Democratic Party. I am not just talking about city council members and Mayor Andy Ginther. I'm also talking about City Attorney Zach Klein, the Franklin County Commissioners, the Franklin County Republican and Democratic parties. I'm talking about United States Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and State Senator Herschel Craig and State Representative Erica Crawley and State Representative Dontavius Jerry Wells. And oh yes, I did not forget United States Senator Rob Portman and United States Senator Sherrod Brown as well. You see, what you all need to know is that, and what each and every single one of them who I just named, what they need to know is that they're all going to have to come on this show. And when you do finally come on the Unbought and Unbossed show, you are going to be asked, when is Black Columbus going to get our check? When are we going to get our return on investment? And guess what? You better have an answer that we here in Black Columbus can be satisfied with, because when we go into that ballot box from now on, and Shannon Hart, now I'm talking to you right now, when we go into that ballot box on Tuesday, November 2nd, you best believe we are coming to cash our checks, because we are sick and tired of being sick and tired and not being satisfied with the results of our elected officials who work for us. We are coming to get our checks. Remember that the next time you come to Black Columbus asking us to vote for y'all sappy asses, because we are remembering that this election cycle, because once again, Shannon Brown, you're up for election, and also the other two people who are sitting in the slate with you, Nick Bankston and Lourdes D. Padelas. We are coming for our checks, and we are going to remember that when we go into the ballot box, like I just said, on Tuesday, November 2nd of this year. Watch this space.
I am so thankful for StreamYard.
I love StreamYard.
I'm thankful for StreamYard.
I love StreamYard.
I am super thankful for StreamYard. Co-founder of an initiative that works to increase female representation in law enforcement. Elaine Bryant is deputy chief in Detroit. Now, that department named an interim chief today. That position went to someone else who already served in that capacity earlier during the pandemic. And Avery Moore is assistant chief in Dallas. Well, now community leaders are weighing in on what's important to them when it comes to a new police chief.
And this as the final 4 candidates are set to be part of a virtual town hall on Wednesday. They'll be answering questions from community members. NBC4's Karina Chung joining us live now. And Karina, what are these members saying about candidates? What are you hearing?
Well, I caught up with Devontae Goins with the Black Liberation Movement of Central Ohio and Denzel Porteous with Stonewall Columbus. Now, both of them have different feelings moving forward.
From 9 candidates whittled down to 4. Devontae Goins, the vice president of BLM Central Ohio, isn't thrilled with the finalists for police chief.
Clearly, we've been failed time and time again, and the only thing that we as a community can now do is vote out our elected officials because they aren't clearly getting the message.
Denzel Porteous with Stonewall Columbus is feeling hopeful for the department.
What I do hope is that those finalists that we do get to engage with represent a diversity of perspective, a diversity of background, and understanding of what it means just to be.
This comes after a tumultuous year in the city, protests last summer, and police-involved shootings. Goins questions how one candidate made the shortlist. Derek Diggs is under investigation for using a city credit card in Fort Myers.
Isn't that what CPD is trying to get out of? Isn't that what the mayor is trying to change in a sense?
Porteous says what's key for him is humility and vulnerability, but also someone who listens to the community.
I'm someone who's open to listening to everyone, difference of opinion or not. I think it's important to take a moment to sit down to understand where someone's coming from so that we can, set some clear expectations together.
Both Goins and Porteous say they'll be watching Wednesday's town hall and are encouraging everyone to listen in.
Not just Black Columbus, but all of Columbus is watching, and we're going to hold you accountable.
And again, that town hall will be a virtual format, and people that have questions are asked to submit those ahead of time. We'll have a link and that email address on where you can do that on our website, NBC4i.com. Local for you in Columbus. I'm Karina.